When a man ignores you, whether it's those long silences between texts, the sudden disappearances, or the way he acts like you're invisible unless he wants attention, you need to teach him something powerful. There's a cost to that behavior. But here's the twist. You don't teach it by yelling, chasing, or trying to prove your worth. You teach it by stepping back gracefully, confidently, and removing access to the best thing he didn't realize he had, you. Because here's the truth. People don't value what's always available. We value what we feel we might lose. So when you stop showing up, stop replying instantly, stop making him the center of your emotional world, he feels it. And in that silence, in that space, he starts to understand what it means to miss you. You don't teach respect by demanding it. You teach it by living it. So let him wonder. Let him feel your absence. Let him do the math on what ignoring you actually costs. And in the meantime, you're not waiting, you're thriving. When someone begins to treat you like a convenience, someone they can reach out to when it's easy, when they're bored, or when no one else is around, it's a red flag that should never be ignored. The truth is, the way someone treats you is often a direct reflection of what you allow. If you keep showing up every time they disappear and reappear, if you keep answering texts immediately even after days of silence, or if you let them dictate the rhythm of your connection, you're silently sending the message that your time, energy, and emotions are negotiable, and they're not. You have to ask yourself an honest question. Am I being valued or am I being used? There's a subtle but powerful difference between someone who makes an effort to invest in you and someone who keeps you on standby for their convenience. One builds something real, the other just fills their empty space. When you act like you're available on demand, emotionally, physically, or in conversation, you start to lower your perceived value, not because you're not worthy, but because you're acting like you're not, and that's where the power shift happens. When someone sees that you're willing to keep showing up even when they're not meeting you halfway, they begin to believe they don't have to do much to keep you around. That's when they become comfortable. They stop trying, and worse, they start to take you for granted. But here's the game changer. You don't need to explain your worth. You need to demonstrate it. How? By not showing up every time, by not accepting crumbs when you deserve a full meal, by not picking up the phone when they only call at their convenience. Let your actions speak for you. Let your boundaries communicate the message that you are not someone who can be picked up and put down based on someone else's emotional laziness. You see, the most magnetic people in any relationship are not the ones who try the hardest to be liked. They're the ones who know their value and won't shrink it to fit into someone else's story. When you stop overgiving to people who underinvest, you naturally start attracting people who meet you with the same energy you give. That shift begins the moment you realize you don't have to keep convincing someone to choose you. That moment, you stop over-explaining, stop justifying, stop trying to decode mixed signals. That's when your power returns. You don't have to beg for someone's attention or affection. If someone wants you, they'll show it. If they don't, your absence will show them what they missed. Remember, love isn't proven by how much you can tolerate. It's shown in how you are consistently respected, valued, and prioritized. And that all starts with what you allow. You're not a convenience, you're a choice. Start acting like it, and others will follow your lead, or they'll leave. Either way, you win. When you constantly fill the silence between you and someone who is pulling away, you rob them of the chance to truly feel your absence. And that absence, more than any speech confrontation or emotional plea, is what actually creates impact. It's easy for someone to take you for granted when you're always available, always the one reaching out, always the one making things right again. But when you take a step back and resist the urge to chase, you allow the silence to speak on your behalf. And that silence is often louder and more powerful than any words you could say. Human nature is wired to recognize value through distance. Think about it. When something is always in front of us, we become desensitized to it. It's only when something is no longer easily accessible that we begin to question what it meant to us in the first place. This same principle applies to relationships. When someone no longer has unlimited access to your time, energy, and attention, they are forced to confront the void you leave behind. And in that void, they start to see your worth more clearly than they ever did when you were constantly present. But the key here is restraint. It's not about playing games or being manipulative. It's about giving someone the space to realize what they had without being told. If you constantly jump back in at the first sign of attention, you circuit that process. You give them relief from the discomfort of missing you, and that discomfort is the very thing that teaches them what they stand to lose. Stepping back doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself enough to not beg for what should be freely given. It's a statement of self-respect, and that quiet withdrawal, that intentional silence, has the power to shift everything. If someone truly values you, they will notice your absence. They'll feel the difference your presence made. And if they don't, then you've just been given clarity without having to ask for it. Many people are afraid of the silence because it feels like rejection. But in reality, it's just space, and space reveals the truth. It shows who's willing to close the distance, who misses you enough to reach out, and who was only ever enjoying the benefit of your effort without offering anything in return. Let them feel what it's like not to hear from you. Let them go days without your validation, your good morning texts, your emotional support. Not out of spite, but out of strength, because if you always fill the silence, they'll never learn to appreciate the sound of your voice. And if they never learn to appreciate it, they were never really listening in the first place. Give them the gift of absence. And give yourself the gift of peace. Because in the space where you stop proving your value, the right people start recognizing it on their own. And the wrong ones, they drift exactly as they should. Self-respect doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to post quotes online or explain itself in long emotional messages. It's not about drama, ultimatums, or trying to make someone feel guilty for how they've treated you. True self-respect is quiet, it's calm. It's the decision to walk away from someone who isn't showing up the way you need without making a scene, without begging for them to change, and without sacrificing your standards to keep their attention. And even though it's quiet, it sends a message louder than anything else. I know my worth, and I refuse to settle for less. There is something incredibly powerful about not reacting. When someone ignores you, takes you for granted, or plays hot and cold, it's tempting to try and fix the situation. You want to ask, why are you pulling away? Or did I do something wrong? But every time you do that, you place your value in their hands. You wait for them to validate you, to reassure you, to make things right, and in doing so, you give up your power. But when you stop responding to inconsistent behavior, not with anger or revenge, but with distance and dignity, that's when everything changes. You're no longer sending the message, I'll accept this if it means keeping you. Instead, you're saying, I'd rather lose you than lose myself. And that is where respect is born, not just from others, but from within yourself. People can sense confidence. They can feel when someone knows who they are and what they deserve. When you stop chasing clarity from someone who won't give it to you, you make it clear that you don't beg for love. You don't fight to stay in someone's life when they're making you feel like a second thought. You don't need constant reassurance when someone's actions already reveal the truth. That kind of silent strength draws real attention, not the superficial kind that's based on neediness or fear of loss, but the kind that says, I'm okay with or without you, because I am already enough. The beauty of self-respect is that it makes the right people step up and the wrong ones fall away. When you stop explaining yourself to someone who isn't listening, they either realize your silence is a boundary, or they expose their inability to meet your standards. Either way, you win, and you didn't have to scream, you didn't have to convince, you just stood tall in your truth and let your actions speak. Remember, silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing that you don't have to react to every slight or chase after anyone who fails to see your value. Sometimes the loudest statement you can make is to do nothing at all, and let your absence highlight the respect they failed to give you when you were fully present. That's the power of self-respect, silent but impossible to ignore. Chasing someone who doesn't reciprocate your energy is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. When you constantly try to prove your worth to someone who is lukewarm, distracted, or inconsistent, you exhaust your emotional resources. You start bending your own standards, ignoring red flags, and overinvesting in someone who is giving you less than the bare minimum. The truth is, healthy connection should never feel like a full-time job where only one person is showing up. If you find yourself repeatedly initiating every conversation, making all the plans, trying to fix things that you didn't break, it's time to shift your focus. Stop chasing, start replacing. Replacing doesn't mean you jump into the next relationship to numb the pain or avoid being alone. It means you replace the habit of chasing people with the practice of choosing yourself. You take all that energy you've been pouring into someone else and reinvest it in your life, your goals, your healing, and your joy. Because the people who deserve a place in your life are the ones who show up without being begged, without needing to be reminded of your value. When you stop running after people, you give the right ones a chance to catch up. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if you just try harder, they'll finally see your worth. But the reality is, if someone doesn't recognize your value from the start, they're not going to magically realize it because you overextend yourself. In fact, the more you chase, the less they respect your time. Why? Because people naturally value what they have to invest in. If you hand yourself over too easily, without requiring effort, it teaches them that they don't need to do much to keep you. But when you stop chasing, when you pull back, hold your ground, and focus on your own path, you create a shift. Suddenly, you're no longer available as a backup plan. You're not answering texts that show up at midnight. You're not rearranging your life for someone who can't even commit to dinner. That sends a clear message. Your time is earned, not expected. This shift isn't about ego or playing games. It's about self-preservation. It's about choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and mutual energy over one-sided effort. The more you chase someone, the more you train them to believe they don't need to chase you back. But when you stop, when you replace the chase with purpose and self-respect, two things happen. Either they realize your value and step up, or they drift away, making space for someone better aligned with what you truly deserve. The replacement isn't just about people, it's about habits. Replace overthinking with confidence. Replace emotional overgiving with healthy boundaries. Replace fear of being alone with the power of being fulfilled on your own. Because the moment you stop proving your worth is the moment people are forced to recognize it on their own. And that's when everything starts to change. When someone consistently disrespects your presence, takes your kindness for granted, or acts like your energy is disposable, there comes a point where you have to stop talking and start showing them the cost of losing you. People rarely understand the value of something until it's gone. They don't grasp what your presence meant, how much effort you gave, or how deeply you cared until you're no longer there to give it. And the truth is, if someone doesn't recognize what you bring to the table, it's time to stop serving them. Your absence becomes the most powerful lesson they'll ever receive. You don't need to slam doors, block them on every app, or deliver a dramatic speech to prove your point. You just stop showing up where you're not appreciated. You stop answering calls that only come through when they're lonely. You stop making time for someone who never considered your time valuable. And as that silence stretches, they begin to feel the loss not just of a person, but of the comfort, attention, support, and emotional stability you brought into their life. That's when the realization hits them, and by then it's too late. The price of losing you is not just your physical absence. It's the emotional void they now have to sit with. It's the realization that no one else listens to them the way you did, supports them without conditions, or sees through their silence like you did. It's the growing discomfort of their new reality, one where they can't access your light anymore. And the beauty of it is, you didn't have to force them to see it. You simply stepped back and allowed the truth to speak for itself. There's power in not giving someone unlimited access to you. When you walk away with self-respect, you communicate that you are not afraid to lose someone who doesn't know how to keep you. And that message lingers far longer than any words. People start to feel the absence of consistency, kindness, patience, and love when those things were never truly valued while they had them. They start to wonder what changed, but the truth is, you changed, you woke up, you reclaimed your worth. You can love someone deeply and still walk away from them. Love without respect is just pain in disguise. So when someone makes you feel like you're easily replaceable, show them how wrong they are, not by proving your worth to them, but by living like someone who knows it already. Go silent, go focused, go where you're valued without question. Let them feel the price of taking you for granted. Let the silence show them what they ignored. Let them scroll through their phone and hesitate before sending that text, because they know you may not respond this time. And even if they do reach out, you're not waiting, you're healing, you're rising, you're already gone. And the weight of that reality, that's the price. Thank you.